Do you guys know about the Jubilee series? I wrote a piece about this about Mehdi Hassan um, a few weeks ago. He was surrounded by a bunch of MAGA folks, and I'm just going to call this a spectacle. So in this latest episode, Amanda Seales, I never even heard of her before until this. Well, she was surrounded by, I believe, like 20 Black conservatives. And I want to be really clear about something. This is not dialogue. This is not debate. I don't think the Jubilee platform is actual, honest debate. What's going on? Susan, thanks, Tom. Uh, Tyro chatting is one way to get a message across. Okay. Yeah, if your wife is in the other living room, definitely. Okay. But Jubilee in its way it's set up is not dialogue. It's not dialogue. It's not debate. It's a spectacle. Jubilee thrives on creating conflict, not resolution, and this setup was stacked to generate clicks, not clarity. So you notice, like when Mehdi Hassan did it, it got a lot of attention, and then Amanda Seals did it, and apparently there was one in between one of the Turks guys. I didn't even know that was I didn't even know that was an episode, but it didn't generate the amount of um, clicks that those that the Mehdi Hassan episode and the Amanda's episode. First of all, I want to say a Black conservative is not an oxymoron, and I can say more about that. Um, and I do think the Republican Party, if it was an actual real party that cared about people and votes, could actually get a lot more Black people if they would actually stick to, if they would get out of social politics, and stop trying to get votes around uh, whether or not trans people should play sports or use the restroom or whatever. Um, but being a Black conservative is actually not an oxymoron. You could make the argument that being a MAGA Black person is an oxymoron, but not conservative like traditional conservative values. Now, to be clear, I don't consider myself a conservative. I never have, but I could see the attraction to conservative politics if it was if it was rooted in actually like conservative values. So Amanda, first of all, she came again. I never even heard of this woman until today or yesterday or today, whatever that was. But anyway, but she came prepared to this debate, argument, dialogue, whatever you want to call it, with history and data and truth. Um, but the design of the show makes it nearly impossible for full engagement of it, much less if the goal is to shift minds, that's not what's happening either. And she was surrounded by a chorus of talking points. Um, Instead of fostering nuanced discussion, Jubilee reduces vital issues like reparations, systemic racism, Black liberation to a kind of strange gladiator match for folks. And what makes this really troubling, and I'm talking about this because I will probably turn this into a piece. So I'm looking at my notes here. What made this really troubling for me and probably for others watching this is that young is the fact that the 20 conservatives that she was surrounded by were all MAGA or conservative. I'm not even sure what they call themselves. And they're young and they really seem to lack critical thinking. So you were given talking points without critical thinking skills just lands flat because all you wind up is in a loop. You just in a loop, regurgitating talking points, can't make your point, so you go back to the loop. It's like it's on repeat. Talking point, repeat, talking point, repeat. But that's all they have. They can't actually go any further because they either lack critical thinking skills or didn't get more help in how to actually have a debate. Because all they did was just shout some of the most asinine talking points I've ever even seen. Now, I want to be clear. I have not watched the hour and 30 minutes of Jubilee. I have seen the clicks. So the clicks that are doing well on social media are probably some of the worst ones. Um, but you have these these young folks that lack critical thinking contrasts us create a stark contrast to what Amanda was doing, which she brought historical context, data, systemic analysis, while her opponents, like I said, all they could do was recycle talking points. And also, there was one piece in there where she was talking to a black man who was an immigrant. Um, and what she says is that if you come to this country, before you criticize the Black American experience, at least try to have some empathy for it and try to learn it. In the same way that Black Americans should when they go to countries in Africa. Um, and um, all, there have been several studies that have shown that when Black immigrants immigrate to this country from other countries that are predominantly Black, um, they may not have the same trauma that Black Americans do, but 3 generations later, their grandchildren have the same trauma as, other Black folks that live in this country. So, if you're a Black person immigrating to this country, it is better for you to understand the trauma and understand the experiences of Black people, uh, in this country, and to understand the history of slavery, the history of Jim Crow, systemic racism, and how people benefit from white supremacy and whiteness culture. Um, when I just looking at my notes and seeing what I didn't cover. So one of the things that I find particularly frustrating is because there could be, this goes back to the point that someone was making earlier about conservatives being an oxymoron, um, is there could be substantive conservative arguments that are rooted in Black intellectual traditions, Black intellectual thought, conversations about self-determination, economic empowerment, or community-based solutions. But we don't get that. Instead, we cut young people who seem more invested in performing conservative respectability than thinking critically about our own community needs. So you have the so I also think it's interesting is that this might be the only of the first episode where the person in the middle who's Black was surrounded completely by other Black folks. And I it would just be much better if it was like Black Black conservative intellectuals and Amanda, and we could have an honest debate that we could all benefit from and learn from. Um, these this I just think that the audience deserves better, and also Black people, we all need Black people and everybody else need spaces where Black voices across the spectrum can wrestle honestly with the future, with our future, not settle not just trying to entertain by pitting us against one another while rewarding surface level ideological performance over deeper, more challenging dialogue. And lastly, I want to say this format almost guarantees the viewers will consume this as entertainment rather than genuine exploration. And that's exactly the problem. When complex issues get reduced to this gladiator style matches for viral moments, we all lose, and we're not any better for it. This is not helping our culture. It is Jubilee is entertainment and gotcha. And I don't know how this format works, but when you hear one talking point after the talking point, that it's, like I said, not grounded in real conservative ideology or real conservative thought. Um, I don't understand. I don't get it. And they will continue to get clicks and likes, and people will continue to watch it. I'll probably watch it when it shows up in my feed, and then I'll probably write about it and talk about it because I think we deserve better. All right, that's what I have. Um, all right. Any thoughts? Who's here? I'm trying to see who's here or who's still here. Anyway, um, in other news now. All right, folks. Susan, did you want to jump on? Jump on? You sure you don't want to talk to people? Would you guys like to talk to Susan? She says, nah, she's good. It's too late. All right, y'all. Till next time. That's all I got. All right. Peace out.